They came without warning, descending upon the frontier colony of Marrow's Reach like carrion birds circling a dying beast. To the Corthan Dominion, humanity was a young, fragile species, tolerated but not respected. They saw us as merchants, as negotiators, as explorers who hid behind words instead of weapons. And so, when they attacked, they did so with arrogance, laughing as their warships darkened the skies of Marrow's Reach. The colony had no military defenses, only research outposts, schools, and families who had left Earth behind in search of hope among the stars. The Corthans bombarded them anyway, erasing homes, vaporizing generations, crushing dreams beneath their orbital fire. When a single envoy ship arrived, carrying the colony's appointed representative, a diplomat rather than a soldier, the Corthans seized him alive. They broadcast his execution across half the sector, forcing human civilians to watch as their envoy was dragged to the execution pyre. They did not end him quickly. They made a spectacle of it. His last words were drowned out by alien jeers. The galaxy watched. The Corthans laughed. Humanity grieved. And in that grief, something darker stirred. Their triumph and mockery. The Corthan High Lords gathered in their grand council chambers to celebrate the lesson they had taught the Terrans. They called it a demonstration of order, proof that the Dominion's will was law. They toasted their own strength, convinced the humans would respond with little more than words and mourning. Terrans are fragile things, one lord sneered to his peers. Their bones crack too easily, their spirits bow too swiftly. They are children dressed in the armor of adults. When we strike them, they will retreat into silence. Others echoed the sentiment, mocking Earth's supposed weakness. They believed we would beg, that we would sue for peace, offer tribute, or fall into despair. After all, to them, Earth had no great fleets, no ancient empires, no warrior kings who could rise in vengeance. What they failed to understand was that silence does not mean surrender. Our silence was mourning. Our silence was resolve, and our silence was a warning. When silence became the answer, it began with whispers, not among humans, but among the galaxy's other races. They had seen the feat of the envoy's death, and what followed disturbed them more than the brutality itself. Earth did not send ambassadors to protest. Earth did not send pleas for peace. Earth sent nothing entire. Systems with human settlements went dark on public channels. Trade ceased. Merchant convoys rerouted. Human diplomats left their embassies in silence, their faces cold and unreadable. It was as though the entire species inhaled and held its breath. For weeks, there was nothing. No protests. No retaliation. No visible movement. The Corthans mocked this too. They are broken, they laughed. See how quiet the Terrans have become? Fear has strangled their throats. But others began to sense something different in that silence. An unease that spread through the stars. Because it was not the silence of weakness. It was the silence of calculation. And then, without warning, the silence broke. The shattering dawn. The first signal was not a declaration of war, nor a threat, but a transmission that cut across the Corthan Dominion's military networks. We heard your laughter. We will not forget. Seconds later, the Dominion's forward outposts reported strange readings at the edge of their systems. Massive energy signatures emerged, far larger than any known Terran vessels. Where humanity had been thought to possess only modest defense fleets, new armadas began to appear. Black-hulled ships with no registry, bristling with silent power. These were not the defense corvettes the galaxy had known. These were ships that had been built in secret, in shipyards buried deep beneath asteroid belts and hidden in the storms of gas giants. They had been forged in silence, in patience, waiting for the day when humanity would need them. One by one, these fleets lit their engines and advanced toward Corthan space. The Dominion laughed again at first, until the first reports came in of entire garrisons, surrendering without a single shot, fired. Not because the humans had unleashed their weapons, but because they didn't need to. The power of defiance. Wherever the human fleets appeared, Corthan armies faltered. Their soldiers, bred for arrogance, not endurance, found themselves facing Terrans who did not fire unless attacked, who advanced without hesitation, who stared through their helmets and let their silence speak. The Corthans expected bombings and orbital annihilation. Instead, they found their supply lines disrupted, their command structures exposed, their secrets laid bare. Every Dominion fleet movement was anticipated, every trap already known, every hidden outpost already compromised. It was as if the humans had been studying them for centuries. And then the true terror struck. Not a single human shot had been fired in the largest campaigns. Entire Dominion garrisons surrendered when they realized their communications had been hijacked. Their families on distant worlds receiving human transmissions, showing how easily Earth could reach them. Armies laid down arms when faced with Terran soldiers who walked calmly into their lines unarmed yet unflinching. Defiance, pure and unshakable, broke them more than any bombardment could. The galaxy watched as Dominion pride crumbled. The invincible armies of the Korthans were undone not by fire, but by fear. By the realization that they were already beaten the moment Earth chose to rise. The moment of reckoning at last, the Terran High Command sent a message directly to the Korthan Council. The same channel where they had once broadcast the envoy's execution flickered to life again. This time, it showed Earth's fleets arrayed around the Dominion's core systems. Dreadnoughts blotted out the stars, carriers stretched into the void, each one silent, each one unmoving, waiting for the order. The message was short. You wanted to teach us fear. You will now learn dread. The Korthan lords who had once laughed were pale with terror. They looked upon the armadas and understood. If the humans chose to fire, the Dominion would be ashes within hours. Their armies were shattered, not by weapons, but by the crushing inevitability of defeat pressed upon them without a single shot. It was not annihilation that broke them. It was the knowledge that annihilation was a choice humanity could make at any time, and that mercy was the only reason they still breathed. The aftermath of silence. The Dominion surrendered, not in a blaze of glory, not in desperate resistance, but in quiet, broken submission. They offered reparations, oaths, and endless concessions. Their empire, once feared across the stars, bent its knee before a species they had mocked as fragile. The galaxy, watching from afar, took its lesson. They did not speak of Earth as weak again. They whispered of us in hushed tones, warning one another never to test the patience of humankind. For our vengeance had not been of fire and blood, but of silence and inevitability. The envoy's name, once ridiculed as his execution echoed through space, became a battle cry, not because of the weapons unleashed, but because of the strength humanity showed in restraint. And so, the legend spread, that when the Korthans struck us, humanity answered not with fire, but with defiance. That when they laughed at our silence was their undoing. That when the time came, our defiance shattered their armies without firing a shot. The whispered warning generations later, the story is still told in hushed tones among alien courts and councils. They remind one another that Earth does not boast, does not threaten, does not scream. Earth waits, Earth remembers, Earth endures, and when pushed to vengeance, Earth does not need to burn worlds to prove its strength. Humanity's defiance is enough to break empires, to shatter armies, to silence the arrogant. The galaxy has learned its lesson well, for when Terrans fall silent, it is not the silence of fear. It is the silence of a storm yet to break. And those who provoke us know. Once that storm arrives, mercy itself becomes the rarest commodity in the universe. Never provoke Earth again.